Hey everyone, well I'm sharing what we're going to be using for the color palette for fall 2022. Really gorgeous colors, though we're going to jump into painting some pumpkins to play with these different color combinations. So grab your paint and let's have fun together. Hi everyone, well welcome back to a new episode of The Creative Season. Today we're taking a look at my fall palette for 2022, the autumn season, as well as we're going to start playing, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing to add in some of the letters that I'm sending out and just fun fall things. So first of all, wanted to talk a little bit about the colors that I'll be using, that we'll be using and painting with in this season. A lot of times I get inspired by just a variety of things, but I had pulled out, when I was pulling out my fall decor, this acrylic pumpkin that I had painted last year. Really fun. I really was enjoying the gold, but I loved all the different blues. Those different depths of blues were really singing to me. And then I was also pulling and playing with some fabric, and I really thought this was beautiful fabric. Brown and blue and green, a little bit lighter. I like a more intense, but I was really inspired by the colors. That yellow is almost like an orange, actually, orange brown. And then even this one, I really love the blues and oranges and brown combination. So those are some of the colors I'm playing with. Now the other thing I'm playing with is what I'm seeing in hydrangeas bouquet, and we're going to paint those I think next week or the following week. Is that really gorgeous magenta. So I really love the magenta and the purples and the way they're playing off the blue. So we're going to complete the painting today, or the palette today, and then I'm going to show you how to mix up some of those colors and what we can look forward to. So I have just sketched out pumpkins, and if you can see this, I have basically taken all of the colors that are going to be my main colors this season, and I have sketched them out, and then I have put the name of the color. And the reason I do this is I like to play with how the colors work together, and I like to see them so I can refer back to this when I'm painting, for when I'm choosing colors. So I'm going to just start getting these wet and start dipping them in so you can see them, in case you want to also create just a palette. I think it's really fun to have a palette that you can play off of, and just play with different colors and mix them together, and it creates a very cohesive collection of paintings and art. So there's the magenta, and that's really, really pretty. And let me come in again, this is that gorgeous like purple pink. It's definitely a fall pink. Remembering the fall colors I'm going to grab that phthalo blue next. The fall colors are warm, they're heavy, they're muted, so they definitely have a weight to them. This phthalo blue is a bit cool, but I'm including it here anyways. That kind of turquoisey blue that I really, really love, and it's going to blend really, really nicely with some of the fall colors. And it depending on the undertones, it can bounce around with a couple different seasons. And if you've heard me talk about seasons before, I'm going to pick up some burnt sienna next. The fall seasons, or that seasonal archetype or color theory, it's a wonderful guide, right? It's not a dogma, but it's a wonderful guide to help us create palettes that are really beautiful and pleasing to the eye, and create the paintings and color combinations that really make our art sing. Because, as I know I've said this before many times, a mentor had said to me, if you can have the most perfect composition, right, most perfect sketching, but if your colors are off, the whole painting looks meh. And versus if you have, I'm going to pick up the gamboge, if you have a really gorgeous, you have maybe a meh sketching, maybe the composition is okay, but the colors are beautiful, and the whole painting sings. There's something about color that's really, really powerful, and that people really connect to, sometimes even more than a composition. And just think about too, when you are really impressed with certain things, is it the color that really pulls you into, whether it's a window display or the gorgeous autumn colors on the trees, maybe a food dish, etc. So that's what we're thinking about today. So that gamboge, see how nicely that goes with the brown? And this is interesting too, because I'm going to do the purple next, and you can kind of maybe start to see some connections here. So here's the purple, the dioxazine purple. And this is, again, I will end up mixing this a lot with the magenta, but you see how beautiful these two colors go together? I think those are just really, really a beautiful combination. So the other one that goes really well, I forgot one. That's so funny. Because I was going to say, I have another blue So let me draw another pumpkin down here. I thought I was missing one, but I just wasn't quite sure. Get my little bottom on my pumpkin here. That kind of looks like an apple, huh? Okay, let's round it out here. There we go. Get that cute little squatty, make it a real fat trunk here. And I have the French Ultra, and I'll put this in French Ultra Marine. Okay, let me pull out the French Ultramarine, and I'll pull that up so you can see that. I am going to grab that French Ultramarine, which is a really intense blue. I'm going to put that right here, and just let me pick up some more water. And look how that is going to look right up against the cadmium orange, and then the sap green as well. This is a great way too to kind of get into sketching. Speaking of sketching, sketching all those beautiful pumpkins that will definitely be doing some projects around. I think I have a pumpkin patch I think would be fun, along with some fall flowers in it that we're going to do a little bit later. Okay, so there's the sap green, and that looks really, really beautiful with this blue right here. It also looks really nice. You can start to see these colors going together very, very nice. Let me pick up the cadmium orange. And I think that orange and this French ultramarine blue are beautiful. You can see it's a bit deeper, although really honestly you could probably choose either cadmium orange or gamboge because they are very, very similar. I find that gamboge has a bit more of almost a look of grain, of a field of grain or wheat, and the cadmium orange is more opaque. You can't see through it as much. Gamboge is more transparent. All right, let me grab the raw umber. The raw umber is definitely a very, very dark. If the burnt sienna is almost like our cinnamon brown, raw umber is our dark, dark brown. And this, though, I think it's a beautiful foundational color to, for example, the magenta and the phthalo blue. And you can just see how we can almost really put together some gorgeous, gorgeous colors. This is a cadmium yellow medium, so we do have a darker yellow this time through. Almost a color I use a lot in like sunflowers. Now just for fun, if you want to play with the stems, making sure you can see all of this, I'm going to come back up now and pull this through. I'm going to take a small brush. So I've got, I think this is like a 1. If you got like a 1 or a 2, just really, really tiny. And I'm going to pull that sap green, which we'll use this green a lot, and start just adding it, for example, in like the purple, to see how, you know, a lot of it, because it's so wet, it's going to blend a bit in. Put over here in the umber on this stem. You can just start to see how the colors play together. I'll put it right here on the cadmium orange. Oh, I got a little bit in there, but that's okay. That looks really, actually really pretty together. I'm going to pick up some of the magenta. I'm going to put the magenta right here on the sap green, and doesn't that look really nice? Really goes together nicely. Over on the blue, that looks beautiful. Over here on the yellow and brown, I'm going to take the phthalo blue and just dab that into the gamboge. That's very bright. That one is bright as well. Put that blue right here too. That actually looks really pretty. I'm not sure if I would put those colors together, but it's good. That's why it's fun to kind of create that palette and think to yourself, okay, what colors would I put together? And then I'm going to take the magenta and put that on top, and ooh, I like that one, especially for fall colors. That purple and yellow are so complementary. And then finally, I'm going to take the burnt sienna and I'll put that up in the phthalo blue. And that blue and brown look really nice to each other. And even next to the magenta, we'll dab that in. Okay, so that is our palette. We've got our palette. I have the colors. We can add in more to see what it looks like when we put another layer on there. That's beautiful. Okay, so now that we have that done, that looks really good. I'm going to go ahead and put that over to the side. Now, if you don't have a gold paint pen, this is a great time to go out and buy them, as all the holiday items are coming out. And I notice it gets closer to the holidays towards the end of the year, they go out of stock. Now, I've used 2 of them. I will say the Craft Smart is fine, but the Deco Color, this is an extra fine that I've used here today. It's much better. It's much smellier too, just FYI if you're sensitive to smells, but it's an excellent paint pen. And the reason I really like this too is it's an opaque paint marker. is because the paint really bounces off of this one, and it really creates some fun effects. So I'll probably use this to maybe write a quote or a little note for whoever I'm giving this as well, but I'm just going to do a couple of pumpkin watercolor sketches with these colors that we have chosen for our fall palette. So I think for this one, I am going to go ahead, I'm going to create a magenta background. So I'm just going to lay down a really, not even terribly dark, but just a nice magenta background. I don't even necessarily need to do the whole thing. I might even just do maybe 75% of the surrounding area with the magenta. You notice I have it not too close to the pumpkin. I'm going to add in a little bit more over here to let that just move around. I do want it darker at the bottom. Maybe I'll get right up to this close to the pumpkin, and I think what I'm going to do is I am going to add in a different color. So when I'm looking at this one, I think I'm going to do you can tell I haven't thought about this too much because I wanted just to kind of play off of what we had. We're definitely put a brown in the stem. And I'm thinking to myself, do I want to do a gamboge or do I want to do one of the blue? Let's go ahead and we're going to pull up the blue since I've been actually no, I'm going to do the gamboge. You're going to notice too as I start painting, the paint seems to almost bounce off of the pumpkin when it hits that gold part. I'm going to leave some white in the area too to show where the sun or the light is bouncing off of it. I'm just adding in. That's really nice. Just simple, right? These make really fun bookmarks. Oh, I got a little too close. But you know what? Purple and yellow are complementary, and so even the mauve, you got a little darker color in here, but I'm going to just leave that alone. That'll actually dry and just look like a shadow. And I'm fine with that. I'm going to go up here, and I'm actually just going to leave that alone. We're going to let it dry. I'll probably come back up here. We could do some splatters. I can even do some splatters up here on these little guys, so that's cute. That's fun. Okay, now up here, let's go ahead and do some of that green and blue that I was talking about earlier that I was enjoying so much. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually paint this little guy green, which I know is an unusual color for a pumpkin, but part of this too is just having fun, playing with the colors, seeing how you want to include them on future palettes or not, right? So I'm going to lay that down right there. And again, that gold just bounces off of it. I'm going to play with some blue as well. So I'm going to grab that darker blue and come over here and play just off of that. And I love that blue and green together. That is just really beautiful. That French ultramarine blue and that sap green. And you can see where the watercolor is kind of congregating. And that's great. We don't want it to look solid, so I'm going to just let that congregate. So then we have our third pumpkin over here. And I'm thinking too, what I might end up doing is I might just do another blue one over here. And just taking that tip of the paintbrush and moving it around. Some of those spots will end up just getting merged in, and that's fine. That looks really, really pretty. Now we have the stem here, and I think I will make this stem a nice, we can make it green. I think I'm gonna make it a nice brown though, because then I'll put the brown at the bottom up here as well. So we're gonna just put that brown down here. Again, not getting close to the bottoms of the pumpkins, but not super close. Well, kind of close. We just want to keep it. I got a little bit of raw umber in there. That's okay. You just don't want the colors to bleed into the bottom. So I'm just moving that around. And that has a much different feel than the pumpkin below, doesn't it? Again, these small, short paintings are really short. Well, they are short. These small paintings are just fun to get a feel for color, for maybe just the mood that you're in, right? I'm gonna put a little bit of brown here. I might take the brown here and just do a little bit of color. It's good to move that color around a bit in your paintings. Maybe just put a little bit down here with the mauve. But we're starting to see that color really kind of come alive. Very different look to each one, the orange and the mauve versus the blue and the green, and a little bit of the spreckles. The gold really helps everything pop out too. Now what I might do after this dries, just to give it a feel, is I'll probably take some mauve and do some splattering with the mauve and the gold just to bring the whole thing together. The other thing I might do with this one is I might create a line out. Let's see if we can do that. The nice thing about with these paint pens is, oh, let me grab the Deco Art one. You don't have to wait for the paint to dry. So go ahead if you want to draw something in a line in, for example. If you wanted to just make some flourishes or whatnot, you can make some dots over here. I do want to create a little bit of a shadow, so I'll just grab my magenta and just create a little bit darker area under here. And then again, maybe just a few splatters. I don't want to splatter on it because it'll just kind of get a little bit messy though. So I'm just going to be real light. Again, I'll probably come back and splatter when it's dry. But very fast, just to show you again, this is a fun way to create some bookmarks and to also play with the color palette of what colors you want to use. You may do a small painting and think to yourself, you know what, that magenta is actually a bit much for me. I don't want to use it, and then eliminate it out. It's much nicer to work it on a very small bookmark size than committing to a larger scale painting and then thinking to yourself, I don't like that. So let me know what you think. What colors are your favorite that you're going to be painting with this autumn? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys next week as we start painting flowers. And we are going to use, actually we're going to be using all of these top colors. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. I will see you next week.